So today I want to talk about. Oh, hi, it's Josh. Um, Today I want to talk about physicality in gaming, which is not something that's always. I think it's a useful storytelling tool that I realized today. I was giving a tour, and I realized that by referring to the environment around me instead of in abstract things in my head, I was able to communicate a lot better the story that I wanted to tell. Um, so I've gone over this before, but how do you know where you are? Well, you're in your room, presumably, and there are objects around you. Deck of cards, a mug, speakers, windows, trees. That's the physical place where you are. I'm in a physical place. So, when we're working with imaginary circumstances and building an imaginary environment, communicating that physicality in a concrete way is very activating for the imagination, and things become possible. For example, if my players are in a fish market describing how many stalls there are, what it smells like, the kind of people that are around, and what they're doing, specifically at that moment in time, it gives them a sense of place. So I could say there's 8 stalls, and they all have white and blue awnings over them, and it reeks of fish, and there are tubs of fish in big wooden barrels, and cutting boards with blood and bones on them. And there are Chultan people with dark skin, haggling, wrapping up the fish, paying coin, picking through them, going through the day's catch, selecting crabs from out of a bucket. There are little urchins, 2 of them that you see that are panhandling for money in the market. It's crowded. There's enough space for you to move and navigate the market. However, you can't really move or navigate without bumping into people. And the market is surrounded on either side by 2-story buildings, and off on the far side of the market, in the direction that you were headed, is a large marble staircase. The marble staircase goes up to the top of an inner wall, beyond which you can't see anything but the sky and the sun. Peeking up over the buildings to your left is a golden dome. Peeking up over the buildings to your right is a giant red-roofed building. That adds a pretty strong sense of concreteness in terms of the objects that are around you, the smells, and then actions that you might be able to take. Maybe you want to buy some fish. Maybe you want to look at the specific fish that is there, and then we can start to work with that. I can tell you how much it costs. You can talk to someone who's selling fish, and then I've got to make up a character who's selling fish. Maybe this person isn't used to people and isn't very smart. So they look at you like, yes, okay. You want to buy the fish. Okay, great. I have these ones. These are the ones that are caught. Which one do you want? Which one do you want? But don't touch. Don't touch. Which one do you want? Okay. Okay, 3 pounds, 3 copper pieces. 3 pounds, 3 copper pieces. 5 pounds, a silver. A silver for 5 pounds. Of this. This is the copper pieces one. This is cheaper. Okay? You want cheap fish? This here. This, very good cut. Very good cut. So 5 pounds, only in the 5 pounds for the whole fish is 1 silver piece. That's how much it costs, okay? So what do you want? You know? And then a dialogue can open up and there's room for role playing in that realm. Or they can push past through the crowds, or approach the urchins who might be just asking for money. And they'll look up at you, with their big eyes. Please, coppers. And then it's like a real living scene that people can actually interact with. So I definitely challenge you as dungeon masters, as writers, as players to look around your real life world and think, how do I know where I am right now? How do I know that I'm in my bathroom and I'm not in my kitchen? What are the differences? What are the objects around me that define it? And start to look at how we construct the world and the things that we expect to find and the sort of common sense things and the unexpected things that you might find in a place where you think you know what there is to find. I have a huge sunburn on my face. I'm realizing I was out in the sun all day. I am exhausted. This is a confession video now. I have not slept for 31 hours. I feel crazy. So yeah, and then also describe the heat or the cold and how it affects them. And just by describing things like that, our imaginations take it and it affects us because our bodies aren't actually, in a way, we don't know how to tell the difference between imagination and reality in some ways. I mean, obviously we can, but thinking about cold long enough, you might start to shiver. You might start to feel physically cold, even though it's hot out. So doing those things, triggering those very specific sensory behaviors it's a root thing that you can do in Dungeons and Dragons to add detail to the sense of play as it's being created. So wonder, how do I know, this is like a mindfulness exercise in a lot of ways. How do I know that I'm hot right now? What do I feel? Well, my cheeks are tingling. Okay, what do you mean tingling? Well, they're warm. Okay, is that painful? A little bit? You know? And consider what the feeling means or what it is. Not even what it means, like the details, the sensory details of a feeling, of touch or of food in your mouth or of a smell. These are especially great techniques for a dungeon master to have to draw people in to their world, and then also attitudes that are evident, like emotional intuition. Are people excited? Are people nervous? Are people scared? Are people frustrated and irritable? What is the mood? Because humanity shares moods as we go around, and then people can change them, and they fluctuate. It's very water-like in terms of emotion. And then what do people think about? What are they considering as they go throughout their day? Oh, I need to sell this much fish because I need to go home later, and I need to have enough money because this is what I do, and I need the fish. I need to sell the fish. Just something basic to start with, to put us into the circumstances. Get in the circumstances. Get in the circumstances. Get in the circumstances. That is where the meat is. That's where the juice is. That's where the unexpected stuff is going to happen as a team, as a group. And it's great. It's so visceral. It's fun, People really come alive when things are real to them. And they have things to play with. I've seen that with my players countless times, and I love that about them. They're totally receptive to these sorts of descriptions, and to like the emotional content of a scene. So I'm very lucky that way. Getting players invested in that is it's not that hard. It's just they need to think about it. They need to be in that mindset, not the like, how do I win mindset? Because the how do I win mindset is like, well, it's okay. It should totally be part of it. How do I solve my quest? How do I solve my problem? How do I get the focus of this adventure? I need this this jewel that's in this cavern, and I don't know if this cavern's dangerous or not. I have reason to believe maybe it is. So I need that jewel, and I want it, and I want to win. I want to get that jewel. That is part of it. And what does the cavern smell like? What is the feeling on the skin? Is it cold and damp as you walk in? Does the air blow in your face? Is there no light? Where does the light end? Do you hear things in the cavern? Do you hear water? Do you hear movement? Do you smell things like rot in the cavern? Um, so these sorts of qualities, um, they're all dimensions of the game, and they're all equally important. Um, I haven't done a writing your own adventure video yet, and I'd like to. The gist of it is, if you want to write your own adventure, the first thing you need to do is create a problem that can be solved, and then know what the answer to it is. Like, God, my son is missing, and I need to find him. That's a problem. That's an issue. And then, or my player's son, because it's not my son, it would be my player's son is missing. And then what's the solution? Well, he was kidnapped by a witch. Okay, well, that's a good start. That's enough for one session. Figure out what happened to your son, figure out the details of how the witch kidnapped him, where he was in the forest or in his bedroom, and imagine what his interaction was like with the witch, and work backwards from that and add details in, and then add little puzzles in, little things that might get in their way, like the witch's tracks just to mysteriously stop. Okay, so now what? The witch's tracks are gone. Well, maybe there was a little leprechaun in the tree that saw it all. Oh, but he's a tricksy guy. He's not going to do it for free. I'm not going to tell you just what happened to your kid. I mean, that witch is going to kill me, right? You're going to need to do something for me. This jerk stole my key, and I want you to go get it back, please. And then we have like another little story there. Going to get the key from the guy who stole it from the leprechaun, who's maybe this guy who wants the leprechaun's gold. And he's out there looking for the leprechaun's gold, and he's got this little key. And he's somewhere out in the forest, and then the party finds him, and it's like, well, what do we do? Do we kill this guy? Do we just beat him up and take the key? Do we intimidate him? It's a small problem. It's not, we're not saving the world here. And it's a good place to start. It's a great place to start. It's fun. Things are going to happen. That's so far that's two characters. That's the leprechaun and the guy who stole the key. And then eventually the son and the witch. And then when they get to her, maybe the son is in a cage, and the witch says, I'll give you your son back. I want to be young and beautiful. I need a sacrifice. Do they fight the witch? Maybe they do. We could make it just a straight up fight. That's a decision that the DM can make. Or maybe it could be either one. Like, it could fight the witch, and the witch is just too powerful, so she'll wreck everyone, and then do something like do something messed up, like stitch something on their bodies, or stitch them together at the waist. I mean, that's a story right there. So coming up with a problem and a solution, and as many details as seem feasibly possible, is kind of the core of any D&D storyline. So long as there's a problem to be solved, the game will keep going. If there's really nothing going on, then I don't know what you got there. There should be more of like a structure, something that's funneling the characters towards like an end of some sort of resolution. And that they can grow. By solving these problems, they have the potential to grow, which is what experience points are. Experience points represent experience, which is growth. So by growing, they become stronger, they become more capable, more confident, and they can tackle larger issues. And one major thing with determining how we tackle those larger issues is it comes down to a mechanical thing, which is what is the challenge rating of this bad guy, the witch, for example, in the monster manual, say 2, and what level is the party? Say 1. Well, if that's the case, fighting her is just not going to end well. If it's a bunch of goblins that kidnap the kid, well, you can probably kill a bunch of goblins. They're not hard. Their challenge rating is like 1/4. So 4 goblins equals a level 1 party, I think. So look at those balances. See how things stack up. You know, how long do you want this process to be? Should it be easy to take, to solve this problem and get the kid and bring him back? Or do you want to stretch it out maybe over a couple games? So that's my advice for writing your own. I know it's a little silly because I really don't write my own. No, I do write my own, and I tend to work in huge problems. I tend to make things really big, and that's why I never finish any of my campaigns. I really do. I would love to finish a campaign. There's 3 things you need in Dungeons & Dragons. You need a party, and you need them to show up on a weekly basis. And you also need a story. And dice. This is falling apart. Alright. Good video. Thank you for watching. Click like, smash that like button. Subscribe the hell out of this. This is premium content. Premium. Yeah, and if you come up with something juicy, let me know. I'm here. I'm listening. I want to know your stories. I want to know what moves you. Well, alright. Bye for now. I'll see you tomorrow.